I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been this excited about a new drone since the Mavic 2 Pro came out. And this is the new Autel EVO II. And the one thing that I'm super excited about, 48 megapixels for photo, 8K video capabilities, a 1/2-inch sensor, 360 obstacle avoidance. Now I've actually covered the Autel EVO back at CES and NAB last year, and you know, they have this one here, which is the EVO I. Excited to have this one as well. I just recently got this one mainly so that I can compare the two, but holy cow, the EVO II is a beast compared to the EVO I. And just for context, this isn't a full in-depth review of the new Autel EVO II. I actually just received it, and I'm of course getting ready for CES right now. So I'm not able to do a really in-depth one because I want to make sure I give you guys the proper information. And I do want to go out there and test this a little bit more. This video is more of my first look and first impressions of the new EVO II. What is going on, guys? My name is Anastasio with flightpath.com. I do a lot of drone tech tips, tutorials, and product reviews right here on this channel. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing and also hitting that bell to be notified when I post new videos. Now, why is this such a beast compared to the EVO I right here? Spec-wise, holy cow, 8K at 24 and 25 frames a second in video. It shoots in 6K all the way up to 30 frames a second. And this thing has 48 megapixels as far as photo, JPEG, and RAW goes. For me, that was one of the biggest things I was excited about. Having a larger image size, especially for me, I like to print my photos. So having that larger image size to go out to the printer with. And also the biggest difference when I saw it versus the EVO I, it has obstacle sensing all the way around. As you can see here, we have sensors here at the top, on the sides, on the back, which looks really cool. It has these back ones that almost look like little thrusters on the back. Of course, on the front, and then on the bottom as well. Now, besides just looking at the specs as far as numbers go, besides it just being an 8K camera, 48 megapixel photo, this has a 1/2-inch sensor, but it also has an aperture that goes down all the way to a 1.8. Now, I think this is the first one I saw that has a 1.8 aperture. Most of them have a 2.0 or even a 2.8 aperture. This one stops down all the way to a 1.8. And with that larger aperture, you're able to capture in a lot more light in low light scenarios, so I can't wait to test that out. Now, even besides the camera specs, this thing is rated for 40-minute flight time, which is just insane as far as how long it could stay up in the air. Now, we all know that, of course, whatever it's rated for, it's, you know, those are also based on ideal conditions where the drone is actually moving at a really, really slow pace. But still, rating it at 40 minutes, which means it'll probably, I would assume, once I do some tests on it, I would assume it'll probably give me 35, 36 minutes of hover time and probably a good 32, 34 minutes of actual flight time. But I'll of course go through those tests just to see exactly how it does rate. Even if it's a fraction of that 40 minutes, even if it's 30 minutes flight time, that is a long time to be up in the air, even if you're able to get 30 to 35 minutes out of it. And not even just that, they are also saying that transmission wise, you can fly this up to 9 kilometers, 5.5 mile rated distance. I'm not gonna do a distance test on it. With the fact that it's rated for 9 kilometers, which is 5.5, a little over 5.5 miles, that means I can more than likely confidently fly it out a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, as long as I have good line of sight and connection with my remote control and the drone. This thing does shoot, of course, in RAW and JPEG. You're also able to do auto exposure bracketing from 3 to 5. There's also a mode on here that allows you to do time lapse as well as long exposure and even HDR on this new EVO II. Now, as far as video goes, we could jump back to that. This thing shoots at 8K resolution at 24 and 25 frames. It also shoots at 6K in 24, 25, and 30 frames a second. And another one I'm excited about on this one to test out, it does shoot in 4K at 24, 25, as well as 30. Also does do 50 and 60 frames a second in 4K. And as far as slow motion goes, you are now able to shoot 2.7 at 120 frames a second on the EVO II, and you're also able to do that in HD at 1080. That is going to be a huge video file. I'm really curious on how big my files are going to be. If I'm shooting 8K, I'm probably going to have to now bump up to like the Mac Pro. Now I have to get a Mac Pro. I think I have now. This might be my reason to buy a Mac Pro now, just so I can start editing 8K footage. Now, besides all the specs, of course, that sound good on paper, I can't wait to just see how good the quality is on this thing. But Autel now has done something that I know a lot of other companies wanted to do. I think X Dynamics was the other one that said they were supposed to be doing this one, but I don't believe they ever released it. But this is gonna be a detachable camera that you're able to now swap out for a 1-inch sensor camera that they're going to be coming out with, as well as a dual camera that's able to do thermal and regular camera on this platform. So you don't have to change platforms now. All you're going to have to do is change out the camera. Now, when it comes down to size comparison, the one thing I wanted to see is just how much, because this thing actually just feels a lot and looks a lot bigger than the Mavic 2 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro actually looks super small compared to this thing. If I actually compare these two, this is the original EVO actually. So if I go and put these next to each other, let's just start with the EVO. It is significantly bigger than the original EVO. And then here it is side by side here. Significantly bigger than the Mavic 2. Let me show you this right here. Here's what the Mavic 2 looks like next to the EVO. And of course we have the side view right here and the rear. Now the first thing that kind of caught my eye, which I really like about the new EVO 2, is this more matte finish, very similar to how the Mavic 2 has that matte gray. This has a matte orange, which just feels and looks a lot better than, you know, this shiny plastic that the EVO 1 has. When I first saw the original EVO, every time you see kind of like that high gloss plastic, I don't know, there's something about it just doesn't feel as rugged to me for some odd reason. I think the high gloss only really looked good on the Phantom 4. And besides the matte finish, that caught my eye, of course, is the sensors. It does have the omnidirectional optical sensors. The only one that the EVO 1 had was front, back, and bottom. This has front, back, and bottom, as well as top, and has the side ones right here. It actually has 2 side ones. If you compare that to the Mavic 2, which actually only has 1 sensor right here, there's 2 on the EVO 2, 2 on the back, and then of course we have a few here on the bottom. Now, as far as remote goes, if you are familiar with the EVO 1 remote control, the EVO 2 remote control is actually exactly the same from what I could see. Form factor is exactly the same. The way you put the mobile phone on top is the same. All the buttons seem to be exactly the same on the EVO 1 versus the EVO 2. So remote control wise, everything looks the same. Now, those are just the specs of the EVO 2, but at the end of the day, how does it look? How does it look compared to the EVO 1? And of course, more importantly, what I want to know, how does it compare to the Mavic 2 Pro? Now, like I mentioned before, this actually is a test unit of the EVO 2. This isn't going to be the final production. More than likely, it'll be pretty much the same thing, but this is still the test unit of the EVO 2. This isn't final production unit. And the app as well. I'm on a beta version of the app. I just want to see what this thing is capable of doing. Let's try to get some test footage in here before I head out to CES. And then, of course, once I get back from CES, I'll be doing a lot more in-depth reviews on the EVO 2. Because I only have 1 battery, I want to try to keep things pretty simple. Not going to go too high, too far. That doesn't really matter how high and far you go. I just want to be able to get, ideally, the same pass on the EVO 2 as well as the Mavic 2, so it's a pretty close comparison as far as angle, time of day, lighting, and everything. So let's try to get a couple of passes this way where it's the best lighting, because I'm shooting away from the sun, and then we'll turn it around. I'm going to shoot everything in auto just to keep it pretty natural as it is. I don't have any filters for the EVO, so I'm not able to really kind of do a comparison as far as dialing in to some of the shutter speeds that I'd like to be at. We'll just toss in auto for now and compare those. And there it is, guys, just some sample photos and videos from the EVO II. Like I said, this is just my first look and first impressions of the new Autel EVO II. I'm going to be going into a lot more detailed videos, of course, now that I'm going to have a little bit more time to do some experiments with it, do some testing with it after CES. So if that's something you guys want to check out, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel and also hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Ultra Anastasio with FlightPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.